So we're here today at Fortis Institute to talk with dental students about what drives them to be successful as a dental assistant here at Fortis and all outside of Fortis as well. As an employer, it's extremely important for me to develop these relationships with the schools here so that we can also foster employment possibilities as well as help foster other people's education. So we're looking forward to seeing what the outcome will be from my efforts here today. We were also able to talk with the admissions committee about what it is that employers are looking for.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Wes. I appreciate it so much. I really enjoy having the opportunity to speak to students because I feel that it helps being on the other end, having seen the graduates come through my practice and having witnessed what other offers are being done in other schools, being able to show you guys a little bit about my experience and my perspective and some of the things that maybe you could think about when you're thinking of what your next step is even after this program. Now, when I talk to people a little bit about Fortis, because it does come up, I am part of the board of directors for Hudson County Dental Society, and oftentimes we're talking about the applicants that are coming into our office. We're comparing notes about different schools. We're talking about what are the candidates these days looking for. And more often than not, I'm finding that a lot of times it's very easy to be a part of a program, get the framework, the guidelines as to what is expected, what you should be doing, and then being able to go into externship, and you really get a cookie cutter approach to being able to be successful. And the reason I bring that up is I know so much about Fortis. I mean, this program has been established for 40 years. You have instructors here that are either have their bachelor's or working toward their bachelor's or have 2 years experience in their area of expertise. You also have here at the school the ability to go for your expanded function. You're able to go for your RDA without having to go through the expanded function test, and you save money on that end. And so a lot of times when people are considering programs, they don't realize the difference between an accredited program and one that's not accredited, but there's a big difference. For instance, when I was picking a school for my son and we were looking at Montessori schools, we were really concerned about an accredited program because we knew that there were standards. We knew that there was a high level of expectation and it would be their continuity between the years. So when other people were coming through the program, we knew that it was going to be at a level that we would expect and we would be happy with. And I think that it's really important. And it's something that I don't think enough people understand when they're starting their program, but being part of an accredited program is really beneficial. And some of you can attest to this because you've seen other programs fall and not be working anymore because of the fact that there's lack of funding or there's problems with different things with the program. And so when you're in the middle of a program and all of a sudden you're not able to complete the program and you've invested money, it's very humbling and it's really difficult to kind of rebound from that. And so it's one of the things I think is really important. And everybody here, do you live within 5 miles of the school? No. So you took the effort to find a really good school that was going to provide a good program, not necessarily because of distance, but because you wanted something that was going to be of real value to you. And that's great. So a little bit about myself. I'm a dentist in North Bergen, New Jersey. I'm heavy into social media. And my office is Aesthetic Dental in North Bergen. We really like the fact that we're able to work with Fortis because Fortis actually really works with some of the top employers in the area. So we've had the opportunity to come to career fairs here. I don't know of many other schools that have offered that. We've also been able to be in touch on a personal level with Leslie to be able to find really good candidates for our office. And so this is kind of a level of service that really good employers expect. And so you already have established a network just by being at this school with some of the best in the area. So I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm actually really heavy into social media. I was actually featured in Gary Vaynerchuk's book, Crushing It, for the social media work that we do in our office. So we actually do TikToks with our staff in our office. So that's kind of an expectation where when people come into our office, we want them to have fun, and this kind of boosts our morale. We did a TikTok with Spice Girls here. We did other ones with different characters, comedies, just showing the office and kind of bringing people to our office and helping them to understand a little bit more about dentistry and how it's fun. Because the last thing that people want to do, unfortunately, is go to the dentist. So how do we make it fun? How do we make it entertaining? And that's what our office does. So I'd appreciate it if you follow me on social media, because I'd love to stay in touch with all of you. Another thing that I've done is I've developed customized mouth guards. So we work with professional athletes from the NFL and from the MMA and UFC. And so because of that, we've been able to do some really amazing work with customization. So like putting different characters on the mouth guards and making it really fun for people to participate in sports. Another thing I do is like a day in the life. So I pretty much, whenever I'm speaking at a different place or going anywhere in the office, we have somebody that's helping us to record what we're doing. So it gives like a little bit of an effect of what our day-to-day is like in the office. And it's kind of like a reality show, you know, that's like a big thing now. So we kind of bring that to life. So this is one of the TikToks that we did. One of the benefits of this is that it really brings interest. We got about 500,000 views and counting, just because of stuff that we were doing in the office. And it's kind of one of the things that we hope when we bring applicants and patients into our office, that they understand that social media is a big part of what we do. So some of the things that I wanted to share is some keys to success after school, because I think it's important. Like I said, I'm on the other side, so I kind of can see where some people have fallen along the way and some people have become successful. So one thing when you're applying for different programs, consider looking at their website and understand a lot about what the office is wanting and what they're about, right? So if you go into an office cold without having any understanding of what their office is about, it can be really difficult to come across impressive, because you don't know what they're offering in their office and why it's good for you. So in our office, the first thing that you'll see is an office tour. It's a video of what our office is about. You can easily find out whether it may be a good fit for you or not just by looking at what it is that we're offering in our office. And you can find out what services we offer. So when the question comes up in the interview as to why you want to be a part of our office, you already have the answers by looking at the website. I've had a lot of people look at my social media and ask me about the social media as well. And so that's been interesting, as to be able to have that conversation with them before they come on, because I already know that they're interested in social media. You should also think about your overall goals, right? So what is it that you want to do? Do you just want to complete school, have a job, go home, not have to think about work? Are you looking to be able to grow with the office? Like if the office, you know, really works with social media, like in our office, we have lots of opportunities, right? You can do mouth guards, you can be really interested in speaking and come along with me on the things that I do in terms of speaking. So there's lots of things. Do you develop your personal brand? What do you stand for? So if I were to look on your Instagram page, will I see a lot of pictures of you out with your friends drinking on Saturday night? Or will I see pictures of you with your family, social media work that you've done, maybe volunteering that you've done? So these are things that are really helpful and important. So now the video's coming up. It's a little delayed. So also, is the office cutting edge? Like, do they offer technology? So in our office, we have a digital scanner, we have a panoramic, we use sensors. You know, is the office up to date? This is important because you want to be able to grow with the business. You don't want to be stagnant, right? You've invested all this time into your education. You want to make sure that they're offering you something in return. I wouldn't accept a position unless you see yourself there long term, because you don't want to be hopping from business to business. This is something I see all the time, is people working somewhere for 6 months and then deciding to work somewhere else for 6 months, and they have this habit of developing a resume that they're hopping from place to place. It doesn't look good from an employer standpoint to see someone who hasn't been able to really work in one place for a long time. And this is something you want to keep in mind. Find a place that will make you happy. And then also try to make an effort to be a team player. Will you get along with the staff? Have you had a chance to meet the staff when you interview? It's important because you're going to be there most of the time outside of your family. You want to make sure that you're going to be able to be happy there. And lastly, you want to consider different things, right? So if you're an assistant and maybe don't have enough experience to do some of the things that the office requires, you may want to consider what are other opportunities at the office. Maybe front desk is more something that would be better for you. Maybe being a floater where you do the front and the back is better. You have to be open-minded to be able to learn, because when you learn a lot when you first start off, it'll pay dividends later. And so in our office at Aesthetic Dental, I think it's one of the best places to come because we think team culture is really important. As you've seen, we really put a lot of effort into our social media, and positivity and hard work is really important to us. And that's why we like to work with Fortis, because we know that they also expect that with their students. We also do a lot of fun stuff like spa days and different things. And we have what I consider to be a really nice facility, up to date, pretty good in terms of being able to attract a lot of patients, so there's never any dearth of patients in our office. Another thing is that we have multiple specialties. So we do orthodontics, we do implants, we do extractions, oral surgery, whitening, cosmetic work, all in one place. And this also gives you another boost in terms of being able to do all different types of specialties and be really hands-on in different areas. And we also allow people to have the opportunity to work on different projects. I'm pretty involved with voice right now, so I don't know if a lot of you are familiar with it, but the Echo Show is something that's really prevalent now, and we do a lot of work in my company to develop voice skills for this appliance that many people have. This is our future, if a lot of you don't know, in terms of voice, being able to communicate within healthcare, being able to communicate within an office, using only voice, not so much using typing or any other form of media. And right now we're on the brink of this really taking over. In the next 10 years, everything we do is going to be on audio and voice. So when we do look at healthcare, healthcare is the one that's going to really improve with voice, because there's a lot of things that we do that causes mistakes, a lot of things that are rote and require like all the time the same thing over and over again, let's say like checklists. And voice is going to help us to kind of bridge the gap between employees and our patients. And so one of the things I would ask all of you, if you haven't been able to take anything away from today, is to think about the fact that voice is really important and to do some research on it, because it's going to really take over how we do things. So I'm going to be speaking at Harvard on August 5th about voice to medical and dentists in the area. And if any of you are interested, you can definitely let me know. And I would be happy to take any questions that anybody has. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Dr. Durgam, I have a question.
Sure.
Could you talk to them a little bit about what you expect in an interview?
Sure, that's a great question. Actually, when we have people that come in, we always expect them to be on time. So on time is being there 5 to 10 minutes earlier than the time you're supposed to be there. So if I'm coming here to meet with all of you, I should be here at 9:50 for a 10 o'clock appointment. The other thing that I really am, impressed by is when people come in actually dressed in office attire or dress pants or a suit. I'll be honest with you, I would say 10% of people do that. They come in with jeans, they come in like as if they're not prepared, and I'm really surprised actually that that's, that people think that that's acceptable these days. And another thing is, even if, let's say, for whatever reason you decide not to go to the interview, you definitely should call the employer and let them know that you're not coming, or that you're thinking about something if you have a question. Just to leave people hanging is really developing a reputation that you don't really care about your work and you're just looking out for yourself. And people talk. Everybody knows everybody else, and so your name will end up getting around if that's the case, that you're not someone to be relied upon. Another thing I would think about is come prepared with questions. So do your research, like I was saying, look at the person's website, find out what it is that they're really focused on in their office. See, if they do anything else. Like sometimes, you can get brownie points for looking to see on a Google search what other stuff they do. So these are all things, in my opinion, that are important. I also think it's important that you do the research to see if it's a place that you want to be at. So accept the interview once you think like it's going to actually be something that you would like to do. I think that's really important. And the other thing I would suggest is be honest up front. Don't accept a position and then say, oh, by the way, I need to take a month off. Oh, by the way, I didn't have this test that you were asking about. I actually thought I did, but I really don't. That really reflects a lot on your personality and how you handle things, and it's really frowned upon by most employers.
Doctor, I got a question for you. If you could speak to the code of accreditation and the value you place on that when you're hiring somebody.
Yeah, that's actually more important to me because I put a lot of emphasis on accreditation because I know that somebody's actually reviewing that the school is on top of its standards and is working towards certain requirements as opposed to other schools. And you would know that as a student, you're investing your money into a good program that's not just going to teach you whatever they want. I know that there are people who have worked at other programs that are here, and you should ask them about their experience because they can tell you the difference. Because I've talked to students who were in programs that were not credited, and it was very hard for them to get through it. If they didn't make a payment, they weren't getting certain service. I mean, there was a lot of politics, a lot of problems with how they were taught. And I really think at the end, when it's accredited, you know that the focus is on the education. It's not on the focus of just the money. It's not on the focus of just getting you through the program so they can say they did it. You know that the standards are there, and you know that you're going to get something in the end that you can be proud of. And if you go on to, let's say, hygiene, or you go on to some other program, you'll know that, your education is going to be a good foundation for that next step. And that's what you really want. And this is just the video of our office so that you can just see, this tells you a lot before you even go to the office, so you know what we actually are about. And you can develop 10 questions just from looking at this video to see, if this is what you would want to do or what questions you might have. We have 6 operatories in our office, so there's a lot of work that we do, and being able to showcase it in a video like this gives everybody an opportunity to know exactly what we offer.
Another question. How important is licensure for you? So radiology licensed, RDA, CPA?
Mm-hmm. That's extremely important to me. Whenever we hire somebody, we want to know that they have licensure. If they are in the process of getting licensure, we want a definitive date as to when they plan on taking, let's say, the exam or what they're going to do. That's the first question that I ask, and it's a good question every time. First, I want to know where a person went to school. The second question I want to know is if they've completed their exams and where they're at with that. It's so important because for me, right when I see the name Fortis, I know a lot about what that person's about and what kind of quality of education they've had. So it speaks volumes. It's really important to me. Mm-hmm.
Can you also talk about a working interview?
Sure. I think a working interview is great because a working interview allows not only the employer to interview the employee, but the employee to interview the employer, right? So you want to make sure you're happy, and everyone's on their best behavior when they do an interview. It's like smoke and mirrors, right? The employer is trying to, persuade you to be with them. The patients are always looking like the best patients in the area because the employer says they are. The applicant who's interviewing, will look really good or try to come across like they've done everything. But the working interview is when everything real comes out. And you see they don't let me have lunch, or, they don't really care, about the opinions of the patients. They just kind of blow them over and not really talk with them. You see more about the demeanor of the doctor, the demeanor of the staff. You learn so much. So I actually always recommend to a person applying to do a working interview, always. It's really important.
Tell us your expectations from the externship student when they go to your office.
Sure. So for the externship, there's always an agreement between me and the school. So I will look at what the school wants. And I put a lot of emphasis on making sure we check off all the points of what the school is requiring. So they'll say we want 10 FMXs for the student to do. So I'll regularly check in with the student and make sure like every week we're on track. So one thing that we do in our office is with all the employees, every week we want to have a check-in where we sit down and talk about what are your goals? Are we on track with the things that we discussed when we started the externship? What are the things that you want to learn that maybe are not in this material that the externship is requiring, but you want to learn about it? Let's say you're really interested in speaking, or let's say that you're really interested in doing more custom mouth guards or whitening, like you want to just do whitening for 3 days a week. You know, understanding what those things are really important. So in the externship, my main goal is to make sure that you learn, right? Because that's why you're there. So we'll put all our emphasis on meeting with you to make sure that you're learning. And we want you to learn everything. So if you've only been focusing on dental assisting, we're going to also talk to you about possibly doing some things in the front. We're going to possibly lead you on a path to focus on certain areas where you may have some weaknesses. Because what's happening now is you're learning a lot of things on theory, but when you actually put them to practice, it's, you know, it may require you to speed up the way that you're working, and the best way to do that is to, you know, use some aids. And so we'll direct you according to what you think you need and make things so that when you're doing the externship, you're getting the most value. When you're doing an externship, you should be feeling like you're getting value from the employer. Like it shouldn't be any other direction. You know, the employer is there to help you. And so if you feel at any point that that's not happening, you need to either speak with the person that you're working at their office, or speak with them, because that's like the most important thing. But we really follow the guidelines of the school and make sure like what the school wants is implemented. So I really appreciate you guys having me. It's great talking with you a little bit today. I also brought some pop sockets if anybody wants one, and my card. So I would love to keep in touch with everyone. We spoke recently at the Greater New York meeting with other students, and it's great to see like the progress that students go through. And if, for whatever reason, even if we don't work together in my office, it would be great to help you, just to give you advice if you need anything, and you can direct message me anytime. Okay. So, I mean, I appreciate you guys being here today. Did you want to take a seat? Please take a seat.
Well, we're just, because in a couple of minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I just want them to hear you.
Okay. So maybe I could speak to you a little bit then first, just to let you know a little bit from my background. My office is in North Bergen, New Jersey. And one of the things that we really look for when a student is coming to apply for a position or a dental assistant is, where did they go to school? So, for instance, if somebody has been in an accredited program, to me, and we were talking just now to the other students, that means something to me, because that means that they have been at a school that has standards, right? As opposed to another program where they may not necessarily have a level of expectation. So there's somebody that actually reviews the school and makes sure that certain things and requirements are being taken care of. That's really important to me, to know that this school has been established and been going on for 40 years. And then from there, the students every year graduate, as opposed to other programs where, I mean, we've recently seen it, some of them have become defunct because they weren't able to keep up financially, and students were left stranded in the middle of their education, having already paid. So being a part of an established program, in my opinion, is extremely important. I think also knowing everything about the program is important. So for instance, if you're going for your RDA, knowing that you don't necessarily have to go for the expanded functions exam, right? You don't have to pay for that and sit for that because you've already been a part of this program, is something a lot of people wouldn't know. So knowing the details about a program and what they stand for, knowing that the fact that I've been able to come to a career fair and actually meet with lots of students. And you all have the opportunity to go to different employers at that fair and see what different opportunities are available. I think that's important because you get a chance to know what's available. They're coming to you. They really work for you. So it's not just give you the education and then bye, we'll see you later. We're going to actually invest in you. And then if you ever need us later after you've graduated, we're going to be here for you. We're not going to go anywhere because we've been here for 40 years, right? So to me, I think that's extremely important to have that as a foundation in case, let's say you decided you want to go for hygiene later, or let's say you wanted to do orthodontics and you wanted to do other type of assisting. Having a good foundation to like be able to go to the next level with is really important, because now you have also the basics down. When you go work, everything's going to work really quickly. People are going to move fast in the dental industry. You already have everything, the basics down. So being able to take that and then go further with that in terms of your speed, in terms of your education, in terms of making sure that you're working towards your ultimate goals, like what you want to do, I think is really important. And as an employer, when I look at what I'm looking for in a candidate, we were just talking about this. I want to know where they went to school and have they gotten their license. So are they working towards their license? Are they working towards getting their X-ray license? Because obviously in New Jersey, everybody needs that. I have lots of applicants that come to my office who, you know, they mean well, but they haven't really gone through a program. They may have, you know, assisted in another state and now they want to work here in New Jersey. To me, I'm not necessarily going to be able to give a position to that person because they just don't have the education, nor do they have the licensure. So there's so many things to look at, and I would just recommend really look at the details of a program before, you know, everyone's going to look really good from the outside, but you have to do your own research and talk to people. And if you were to go and ask 10 other dentists, what are places that you consider in terms of schools to hire, you're going to always see Fortis at the top of the list. So it's really important because honestly, there's not a lot of schools that actually have a good facility that spend the time on the education. And so putting the time and effort on this end and doing the homework, I think would be really helpful. You'll know exactly what you're looking for when you do that. And you want to find a place that's going to make you happy, right? Because you're going to spend so much time studying. If it's going to be dreary, if you're going to have to fight with somebody to get your education, if you have to like work with so many people and they're not really guiding you properly, like it's hard enough to study. You just want to focus on that, right? And you want someone to lead you in the next direction. You don't have to worry about, okay, now I have to go look for a job, or now I have to go talk to this person because this class is closed. You know, those are things you don't want to think of. So it's important to think and do a lot of research. Did you guys have any questions? I would before you have to go. I just want to.
No, not right now.
Yeah. What are things that you're considering when you look at a school? Like when you're going on these tours, what are some things that you might be thinking about?
I feel like one thing is how, I guess, the school interacts with the students.
Mm.
I think that's important. Like, I know there's schools like they help you at first, but then later on they don't really you're on your own. But I feel like the school will definitely work with you.
Right.
A lot of hands-on and advancement.
Right.
Advanced classes.
Do you live close by? Is distance an issue for you?
No.
And do you think you'll be working while you're in school?
Yes.
Yeah. So the hours are important, like when you're going to be in school, so that you can accommodate your work schedule too. Mm-hmm. Did you talk to anybody when you decided, like what made you decide to go to assisting?
For me, it was just so I wanted to do something new, and I felt that this honestly was the best thing because I see myself doing it.
Mm.
So I felt confident enough to do it.
I see, okay. Did you talk to other students that have already been here before to get their experience? No.
No, but I did do some research and people who did.
That's great.
Programs for this.
Okay, great.
This is their first. This is their first opportunity. So they're touring the school today.
Yeah,
and able
that's
to
what she
talk to
mentioned.
students
Yeah,
there, so.
that's good. Well, best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
She's Michael's, her boyfriend is upstairs in the EST program.
Oh, so you do have firsthand. Yeah, you have.
Are you Rosa? Who's Rosa? He has.
Oh,
Rose? Yeah, Rose.
Yeah.
Sorry. He was always talking about, oh, I know Rose. Rose loves me. I'm like, oh. I'm like, well, I have Maria, so.
And what is his name?
Michael Cordero.
She's going to write it down.
Oh, Michael.
Yes.
We like referrals.
That's great. Nice meeting you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks. Take care. Good luck. Best of luck to you.
Come on, my girl.
She's doing massage therapy, so that's why she wasn't.
Oh, sorry.
But we wanted them all to come and
Okay. so they understand a
She's
little
gonna
bit.
want to do dental
Dental
now.
I know, right?
Massage, no.
Dr. Durgam, we're downstairs. We were talking. I think it was the dean brought up the licensure aspect and the importance of that. Perhaps for admissions, you can go over that again.
Sure. I mean, for me, licensure, having that is really important to me. I always ask them for a copy of it when we have them come to the office to apply. One thing I've noticed about Fortis students is they always seem to have all their paperwork prepared, and it's all copied, and they just kind of give it in like a folder or something. So they always seem prepared, and I think those are important to me. If they don't have the licensure, when are they going to get it? And having that organized, like, I think speaks volumes. Because, for instance, for myself, I look for students who are like fact finders. So people who are follow through and fact finders, that means that they work really hard, they do their research, they follow through, and they're teachable, right? So when someone comes in ready, that speaks to those, assets on their part, that they're able to do that. I think assisting, like the follow through aspect is sometimes lacking. A lot of times, I was just mentioning this, like they won't come on time for their interviews, or they won't have their paperwork together, or they're not clear, like what's the next step in whatever they're doing. But, at Fortis, they obviously seem to be really prepared and know. And that is important to me, to know that. Like they vocalize it, like I've already talked to this person, this is the next step, this is what I'm going to do by this date, if they haven't already obtained their license. And so, having a plan and knowing that they do that is really important.
Which licensure specifically? Like I know you mentioned the X-ray. What else are you looking for that is
right? So I mean, if they have the RDA, if they have the other, I mean, if they're doing orthodontic, if they have the OA, whatever licensure that if they're applying for an orthodontic assistant, there's other type of exams that they have to take. So if they've already done that, or they have a plan that they're going to do that, that's extremely important to me. And knowing what experience they have that goes along with that licensure. So if they, if they've got their X-ray license, but they've never taken X-rays, or they go to a different place so that they can just get the exam done. It's like you want to, what I do is I actually, want to go further. I want to know where the experience is behind that licensure. But
you mentioned orthodontics. So when they're here, are they taught like part of orthodontic also, so then they can go sit for that OA?
So that's going to be separate, but like what I was mentioning to them before is that the foundation starts here, right? So focusing on what their plan is and what they're going to do. And for instance, if that's like the next step after they leave Fortis, what is the plan to get prepared for that? They obviously have to start here with the basics. Like, I'll be honest, a lot of times when people first get out of school, like even understanding like the x-rays and knowing which tooth is which number, it takes a second to kind of do that on a regular basis at a speed that is important for an employer, right? They are used to doing it based on theory, but are you able to do it at the speed where I'm seeing 50 patients a day? Are you able to keep up with me? And I want to know that they're able to do that. So on their end, what are they doing to not just understand things from a theoretical standpoint, but actually able to apply it and execute on that? I think is important to me as an employer to see that. And so those are the things I would focus on, I think, in terms of the education, that their foundation is sound, that they can go into the workplace right away. Because a lot of times when students just graduate, they seem still a little bit, honestly, a little lost at times, because they're still trying to get the speed down and make sure that they're concrete on the ideas. So constantly working on that, finding a good externship that enables that to happen, where they can do lots of things at a rapid pace, taking advantage of those opportunities so that foundation is good. So if they do decide to do the orthodontic exam, or they do decide to further, the education, that they're able to do it.
Are working interviews a part of your hiring process?
Yeah, it's really important.
How does it work? Like you do a first interview, and then the second part, you have them come back on another day to do a working?
Mm-hmm. So I'll interview them first, and I've had candidates say, well, do you want to just have me come for a working interview? Like they'll just change it, and I'll say, I'm going to have you come for an interview. They'll ask me, can they come for a working interview? I don't necessarily like it when people come back to me with what they would like to do. I'd prefer to have the interview first, see if we are on the same page in terms of what your goals are as a candidate and my goals are as an office. You know, if that person tells me at that point they don't want to work Saturdays, that's not going to work for me. So it doesn't make sense to do a working interview at that point. So I feel like the first interview is important. I'm going to ask the basic questions to make sure like your demeanor is, you know, in check, in my opinion. You don't have attitude, because honestly, that's, you know, it sounds funny, but it's really important. You're teachable. You come on time for that initial interview. Because at that point, if it doesn't seem like it's going to work, then we probably should both move on at that point.
Yeah. And then in the working interview, are you looking for certain things? Are you looking for speed? Are you looking for accuracy? Or are you looking for coachability?
Coachability.
Okay.
That's extremely important to me.
Know everything in a working interview.
Yeah.
The idea is that can they fit into the mold of your practice?
I'll be honest. I know that we're here talking about Fortis today, but if I were to interview somebody who worked at Sephora and they were coachable, like I could probably talk to them about maybe then entering the Fortis program and then, you know, being a part of my team. I'd prefer that based on their personality than somebody who has a bad attitude and already finished their education. To me, I put more emphasis on the attitude there and personality and teachability. Teachability is really important because you'll stall otherwise at the first day, second day, and nothing else will move forward. Yeah.
I have a question. This is all recruitment here. So what do you need more of as an employer for your practice to grow? What do you need more of?
So me personally, I mean, my office is, you know, we see a lot of Spanish-speaking patients, so bilingual is really important to me. And any attribute, honestly, that's a little bit different than just the regular studying sometimes helps. Like if you can add another element to the office somehow, if you have good writing skills, like I would actually have them point that out. I could do your newsletter for your office. I could do the social media for your office. I can do the photographs, you know, that we post because I'm really good at photography. Those skill sets that maybe other people don't know are important in my office. You know, being able to type at a decent speed is important too. So I would put your WPM on there if you have a really good speed. And I think that, you know, if there's other hobbies that they have, I mean, there's nothing wrong with including that at the bottom in terms of interests, because there's sometimes a way to link when you apply for a position. If somebody puts something about them really liking TikTok and I like TikTok, now we have a mutual connection that we would have not had otherwise. So I think, you know, that's important to me and things that I look for.
Even sales background, right? Like dental sales?
Yeah, I think sales is important. We actually do personality tests in our office. So we want to know if it's going to be a good fit for the position. And so, for instance, sales, in my opinion, is good for treatment plan coordinator. So sometimes it's helpful for dental assistants because they are going to be talking about treatment and different things to the patients. I like to think that we only talk to patients about things that they need, and we're not necessarily trying to convince them, but we're trying to aid them through facts and information so they can make a good decision. I think that comes from being someone who's a good follow-through, in my opinion. So I put more precedence on assisting with follow-through, and then in terms of front desk, you know, maybe sales would be helpful. It's always about finding the right fit for the right position, in my opinion. I don't think that anyone's a bad candidate. My office just may not be the best fit for that person, or this position may not be the best fit for that person. I was mentioning downstairs before also coming, you know, well-dressed and not in jeans and tennis shoes and your hair disheveled. You know, coming in like ready to impress, having everything, you know, obviously organized, being on time for the interview. I mean, these are basic things, but they're very much lacking these days because I do a lot of interviewing, and we have really high standards in our office too. So it takes, you know, 30 candidates sometimes to find one that would be a good fit. And so I think being able to put, you know, the time in to, you know, interview people and make sure that they're a good fit, you know, it takes time.
What separates our graduates from some other schools that you may have interviewed?
So I'm definitely looking at the accreditation part. So if I see that they went to Fortis, I'm definitely giving them extra points, honestly, for that, because I know what to expect and I know that they're ready. I will say that in the past, and I don't know if this is the case anymore, but a lot of them have come in the past, maybe before all of you were here, where they had mentioned like a certain pay that they were expecting. Because maybe they were told by somebody that that's what they should ask for. And I always feel like it's important to see whether you have the experience for that position. And maybe the best avenue would be, if you really like the office, to apply at maybe a little bit of lower rate and show your worth, and then ask for maybe something more later. In my opinion, that's the best way to get in the door when you're just starting out, and no one can really judge whether you have what it takes to be a successful in that office, right? So in my opinion, it's sometimes you have to think a little bit outside the box. If you really like a place, what's the best way to get a foot in the door?
Can I go grab, like, we are, as part of recruitment, we're required, when we talk about salary, like, we have to use something from the New Jersey, it's like from this career info. Well, BLS does the United States, so we need to drive it down to New Jersey, and so there's a website that pulls New Jersey. But if I go pull it, I mean, it might be helpful for us. There's a range there, and so what we try to do is talk range instead of talk, specific hourly rate or specific
It's part of our
salary.
disclosures.
Right.
We're by the government. We have to give disclosures, placement, outcome, salary.
No, range I understand, but I've had people say, this is what I was told to ask for.
That's not
Okay.
happening. And I believe that
We always
Yeah.
say it's entry level, because
Yeah.
it's entry level.
Sure.
going
To start
into-
off.
that hasn't happened in a
And-
few years
yeah.
though.
Exactly right. That's
Okay.
exactly right. That's why I mentioned, I gave that caveat,
Okay.
that it's important to make sure that, I just want them to come in with an open mind. I think it makes a big difference
Yeah.
about them getting hired.
Can I just pop in real quick about that? You guys all know that before they go out on externship, they come and meet with me. And we do a one-on-one. And at that point, they filled out the little profile, and there is a section for salary. A while back, and sometimes it still happens, but not that often, I will see 18 to 22, 20 to 25. They're entry level.
Right.
Where are you getting this number? Some of them have gone on this website. That isn't really entry level, that website. It really is not truly entry level. So what we do is each person's different. Somebody might live at home with their parents. Somebody might have kids and a husband or wife, partner, whatever. Everybody's situation is different. They work with me and we come up with a range. And although we come up with a range, they have to know, let's say you say 13 to 15. Let's just say we say 13 to 15. I will always tell them, if a really good job comes along and it's a perfect fit and it's close to home because you don't really, want to drive very far, and they offer you 12 or 12.50 to start, you take it.
Well,
Because you're only going to go up.
well, typically with anything that we do in recruitment, we let them know that they're entry level.
Okay.
However, specifically with dental, because I've sold dental at a couple of other Fortis schools, the one thing that we try to let them know, like, okay, if you start off entry level, you work well with the dentist, and you're able to keep up with the productivity. That's why when you mentioned that, I thought that was a key point for you guys to kind of hone in on when you're selling the program, is because if you can keep up and help productivity in the dental office, then there is that potential for a raise. For, usually you want to keep a dental assistant that's going to help you be productive. So that's kind of how we go about with regards to letting the students know that, okay, although you start entry level, ultimately you can get to that level if you show
Right.
improve.
And I think it's important when you're talking about the school, right? Because they're saying, I'm already have a job that's paying me $12 an hour. Why am I going to go and have an education and then you're saying at the end I'm going to get $12 again? The reason is because you're going to start here, but because you have the foundation, you're going to end here, right?
Credentials is the
Right.
But
Right.
you know what, that was why I was glad you talked about sort of the foundation and then you started talking about growth opportunities. I think sometimes for us, when we think of medical assisting, we think there's more growth opportunities because in our mind it's like, well, they can work for all different types of doctors' offices and then they can move into LPN or they can move into registered nursing. So we feel like there's more steps, and I think that you guys have to be able to see that there's equally as many, if not even more, even in dental. Like
Within
you mentioned-
dental,
right? Like
right.
you mentioned OA. You mentioned treatment plans. My
Office
sister did her-
manager.
right. My sister did our dental program at our campus down in Philadelphia, and she started off at a holistic dentist, and then she went into something different and did peds, and then ortho. And so there's so many. There's a cosmetic dentistry that she worked in. So
Right.
there's so many different opportunities.
So maybe
and I
that's
don't think
something
we
there.
always think of
Right.
that.
I think-
tell them like there's all different like medical assistant, dental assistant, like oral surgeon, like you're not just in a regular dental office.
Right.
You're not just, you know, pinned in there, that there are opportunities. You may decide you'd like to work in pediatrics compared to, you know, pediatric dentistry rather than regular dentistry. So those are different avenues.
Right.
You do tell them.
I think that's important too when they're first coming into the program, to make sure they understand that those are the variety of opportunities available to them. Like they can go into orthodontics, they can even work part-time if they want at some point, only 2 days a week. If they, let's say they decide they want to stay home for a few days and work 2 days a week, the other days they could have off. They have that flexibility, which very few professions offer.
Yeah.
Like it's very hard to do that anywhere else. And then the fact that you can do, like you were saying, pediatric dentistry, or you can work in a group office and have like the experience of all different types,
Yeah.
or that you can do orthodontics. Like I don't know that when someone enters a program that they necessarily know, they're not necessarily thinking orthodontics.
Right.
In my
Or
opinion,
specialty,
yeah, they're thinking general usually only.
Mhm.
And to be able to kind of like lay it out where there's like different aspects, I think could be helpful, because now their mind is like moving in different directions, right? Now you can do orthodontic assistant and you can possibly get paid more than you would as just a general assistant. Or you could also see that as a possibility when you leave the school, that this is where you could end up one day. You could be an office manager. You could be a treatment plan coordinator. You could do orthodontics. You could work at these different offices. And how do you maintain, I think importantly to me, would be how do you maintain your worth as an employee? So if you go and work at a pediatric office, now you spent 10 years at a pediatric office. Now if you wanted to go to a general office, you're not going to necessarily know how to do crowns, or you're not going to have the skill set necessarily to do the latest CEREC single day crown. So like there's things that you start to lose if you specialize. So have a plan as to what you want to do, so that maybe a group office, you get the benefit of everything and you'll always have those skills no matter what, that you can always jump from there to something else. Those are like the planning parts, what they have to kind of be told about, because as a student, I don't think they see all those moving parts. The big picture, right, exactly right.
That's why I wrote down foundation. Like, I think it's great that you talk about having such a strong foundation, because then where you have the
Opens different
advantage, it
avenues.
opens
Right.
different doors, and that's the whole idea.
Right, right.
That a $12 an hour job when you're working retail, since they've raised minimum wage or whatever, you know, your growth opportunity is a little limited in terms of being able to have this specific skill and this specific set that can take you into different.
Well, and I also tell them too, even if you're starting, you know, a little bit lower than, you know, or around what you're making at your other job, once you start to take these exams and you start to get these different, you know, certificates, and you end up RDA or CDA, obviously, you know, that your salary is gonna go up a little bit. You know, depending on the office and the dentist, it could be all be different, but
Right.
it eventually does go
Yeah,
up.
I always
because
tell
of
them too,
this.
it depends on the office and if it's a big group, if
Right.
it's a little mom and pop practice or something, so those things do make a difference.
But the flexibility in that schedule, I mean, like, right, so my sister works Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 12-hour days at one practice.
That's
But
amazing.
then she loves the holistic side, so she works Monday and Tuesday with
Ah,
a dentist that specializes in holistic, but she does 4 hours on Monday, 4 hours on Tuesday. And now she's trying to bring that holistic piece and approach to the larger practice that she's at Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, to increase her value, to require her to ask for more, like,
Yeah, it's
that's how you.
she has a full day. She has like a full time schedule, 3
Yes.
days a week.
Yes.
That's
yes,
very alluring
yeah.
to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me spin this back real quick. Obviously, you have a lot of time invested in your practice. And this listening to you, this is a great practice.
Mhm.
So
Thank you.
she's looking for people, because people need to connect to people. So it starts with personality. They're investing a lot of time, a lot of resources into these people. So that is what's going to make their pay scale go up. Because if you start bringing value, turnover is gonna hurt her practice. So that's the key piece here. It's personality, personality, personality. But the core competencies is the standard. She's interviewing Fortis graduates because that's on the paper. That's kind of like opening up a can of Coke. You know the taste. I can go to anywhere in the world and that flavor's the same. Well, she can hire any of our graduates and the core competencies are the same. That's our taste. Now it's the personality. She needs people to fit into her practice that are going to communicate with people, because the biggest part of her business is referrals.
Right.
So she wants to give them a great experience. So that's the piece here that ties back into everything. And if you really want the goodwill, the goodwill piece is the #1 selling attribute of anything we do here. It's how that goodwill goes back to meets the employer. Because the employer ultimately is selling their business. And they want to recruit the future. The future is people dealing with people. It's that simple.
And the other thing is, like, a lot of the office also, they'll invest in consultants. They'll invest in their team. Like tonight, I'm taking my team to continue education. So there's other things that in return for that enthusiasm that they bring and their attitude, we're giving them back in terms of education on our end and constantly doing so. And I think one of the benefits of Fortis is that you've established your reputation. So now I'm going to want to stick with Fortis graduates as opposed to other ones. I've invested a lot of time into social media. I've tried to develop a really nice office that looks nice from the inside out. Customer service, we give our patients tours when they come into the office. We give them aromatherapy towels. So we're trying to do high end. I don't want to just bring anybody in. So I'm focused on like the places where I'm going to get the best candidates. And so that's one selling point, is to be able to say, hey, we actually attract the best employers because of the way that we work within our program. And I think, that speaks volumes too.
Would you say that the demand for dental assistant is higher now, and where is that going in the future?
I think that it's a dental assistance market right now.
It is.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we talk about that all the time, but I just wanted your opinion.
For sure.
Okay.
For sure.
So your practice is growing, and you see other professionals also growing?
No, I think it's more because there's like too many dentists, to be honest with you, and there's not enough assistants.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a dental assistant market right now.
Do you find that a lot of dental assistants go on to go the next step to hygiene, or because we do get asked that a lot of time, how would I go about doing hygiene?
Right.
If, after I do this and I like it, and how would I go about going into hygiene?
Right. I mean, some people ask about that. I mean, it's alluring to think about what's the next step. But I would say, some people have that in mind, but a lot of times life gets in the way. And so being able to have certain things already set in terms of your education, so you can actually make some money and then possibly, let's say 10 years, invest in a hygiene education, which is going to be a lot, bigger chunk of money. It seems to be more the goal and what I hear more.
Lisa, I want to answer that question real quick. So we have a hygiene school. So this has come up in the last year a good half a dozen times. So our sister school to the northwest in Scranton has a hygiene program.
Oh, okay.
And it's an hour away. We probably have 4 to 5 students. I got one from Verona. She's probably the class valedictorian right now, or in the running for it. She came through this program here a few years back, went out and worked for a practitioner in Verona, decided she wanted to go to hygiene school, and she's committed. And so, we have a couple more in the area here. The problem with hygiene is this. The competition in the area here only selects a certain quota. I think it's 30 in the spring and 30 in the fall, okay? And so they're capped, and it's what we call a double enrollment. So you're generally enrolled in the hygiene program, and then you got to qualify to get into the program. So you're going to take all these electives, and what's going to happen is you may not qualify. So now what you're stuck with a year of these electives and a tuition bill that has no destination. Versus our school in Scranton, it doesn't have the electives. You go right into the core. Okay.
I didn't realize that.
And honestly, we can't. I'll tell you all, but I can't say this outside of here. I have more jobs than I have students.
Yeah, seriously.
You can't say that.
We're opening a hygiene program. It's in September at our campus in Philadelphia. We have one at our campus down in the Baltimore, D.C. market. So, but even for our hygiene programs, we get 14 seats twice a year.
Yeah.
So, there's
So we're locked
28.
by the state.
We
Right,
get
we're
a
locked.
lot of, from, what's it, Bergen, that they can't get in, and then like, I couldn't get in the
That's-
hygiene program,
right.
so they come here for dental assistance.
Mm.
Now that's clinic related, so
Well, yes,
based
it is.
on the
Oh,
size
it's
of our
definitely-
clinic,
yeah,
it's
it's
not, you know, there's
clinic,
we have
yeah.
a huge clinic, but
Yeah.
but I want to go back to dental assisting, and Leslie will attest. She gets probably majority of her day is just picking up the phone of job leads for dentists.
It is insane.
Yeah.
So they're calling you. You don't even have to go on the hunt. for
Oh,
them.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
You look at
We
my,
don't
what
have-
I call my Bible, it's my notebook. Dentist, dentist, dentist,
So-
dentist, dentist, dentist. I need. It's insane the number of calls I get a day.
But at the same time, then I stand here and I listen to this today, and I really want my graduates working at a facility like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because here's where it all connects. We're about referrals. No, nothing is greater than having a referral walk into your business. I don't care what you're selling. I really don't. It doesn't matter. If 50% or better of your customers walking through your front door, and the student's a customer, they want our education, is coming here because they're referred, that says more about your product than anything else. We're at 65% right now total on this campus. Okay, we have a great product. And when employers come to you, that tells you about the quality of your product as well. Okay, so we've established our quality in the community. And there's an expectation. Now we have to live up to that every single day. Okay, why? Because that's the expectation. We've raised the bar. This is our standard. Sure, you can go get a Yugo and drive around the block. But our car standard is up here. You jump into one of our graduates and they're expecting this. And that's what ultimately you all get every single day, because the one thing that's missing here in recruitment is we have students that want to be dental assistants. But the one block is this. Unfortunately, our high school programs don't do enough to promote our program. Why? Because we're not a traditional school. So they look down at us, okay? And so what happens is you have a lot of students that feel that they're not, now let's use the word, they're not smart enough. I can give you I'll give you a great example. Let me link this. The class soon to be the class valedictorian, or in the running to be, of our hygiene program in Scranton, came through this program here. She was afraid, Amanda, was afraid of her shadow because she did not have the best high school grades. She graduated with straight A's. Then she didn't think she was smart enough for hygiene school. And it took her 3 years and about 7 attempts to go up there just to open the door. Now she's on the verge of maybe being the class valedictorian. It comes down to confidence, okay? And that's the one thing you have to now link this with education, because the standard is really building the confidence. You have an amazing product, and when you're on the phone, the person next to you, they just don't feel that they're smart enough for here. Why? Because your product level, this is your quality. They don't feel they're good enough to meet that quality. But yet, everyone that came before them felt the same way.
I wanted to piggyback. So that was awesome. I'm Josh, part of the high school outreach program. Essentially, what I'm asking you is like, you're getting 19-year-olds, right? And they're going to be dental assistants. How does that fluctuate with an office where like there's a little bit more of an adult, where experience is high level, but at the same time they want to get in there, they want to dive in, they just have that, build up. Remember, 4 or 6 years, that adds up to persons like you mentioned before. So when I'm going into high school and they're expressing to me dental assisting, I want to know when they go into your office, they're not going to feel left out of the community because of that age difference. So I want to know, is it on the younger side of dental assisting? Do you find that average, or is it kind of like a growing curve as they're in there? That's my question to you.
So In our office, what we do, I was mentioning before, we do like weekly meetings. I do one-on-one meetings with each of the people that are in the office to see if how they feel about the office. Do they feel included? What are their goals? And try to make sure they're part of a bigger community at all times. And we do TikTok videos in our office.
Yeah, totally.
So like we're doing things from a team morale basis. And if anybody doesn't want to play well with everybody else in the sandbox, they're actually let go. So that's more important to me than if you're like 28 years old and you've been in the business for a long time and have lots of skill. Like if you're going to come in with an attitude like I'm not necessarily going to want to work with you, as opposed to someone who's teachable and younger, I'm going to definitely give them a chance, because it's just, you just go up from there. Nice. So I'm not overly concerned about that.
Perfect.
The other thing with referrals too is that every dentist thinks they have the best office, and well, they
Of course.
Absolutely.
I get feedback from the students that have worked at her office. This is why we've been working together for 10 years.
Right.
I hear back from the graduates that have actually worked in these different offices, and some I don't get such a great feedback, some I get okay, some I get glowing, and I've always had every graduate that's ever been there, whether or not it always worked out, they always loved it there and felt very included and felt they learned a lot from you. So
well, thank you for that.
It goes hand in hand, when we're trying to make the best fit. So it's them coming back to me about these offices also.
All right, couple questions to wrap it up. She has a practice she has to go.
Like, we'll keep you here all day long.
Of course. I mean, also, if you guys ever like have a question about something, like from my perspective, my perspective is limited. Obviously, they know so much more and you know so much more about the school. But from my perspective, if there's anything that I could ever do to help, she has my number. You can always do like a conference call, or we could discuss maybe putting together a video that we could maybe show students for when they come here. What are all the advantages that the school offers over others? Like the differentiation, I think, is important. And what is the value that the program is bringing? What are things that can be done to make it easier so that it makes your job easier? And it's like, this is the same thing, the message that we want to always give to everybody. What is that, and how do we do that effectively?
That would actually be great. We've been doing a lot more with social media. We've been doing a lot more with just even graduate testimonials. So employment testimonials. So on our fortis.edu website, we have graduate testimonials on there,
and you're promoting those
testimonials.
Okay.
But we're not doing it enough, and so that's part of why we have admissions in here right now, because we feel like we have an opportunity to do a better job, even from our initial phone call. When we leave here, I'm going to talk to you guys about some things I want to incorporate into our initial phone call that I think is just going to, from a
I think that's excellent, because if you could put together a video, they're great at this, putting together videos, putting it on Facebook, and targeting people interested in special interest dental assisting, dental or anything about that. You're going to now be bringing in applicants who you don't have to necessarily convince. They're already convinced because they've seen everything already. They've gone to your social media. They've seen everything about your business. So that's the type of candidate you want, the one that you don't have to convince. Because of the attention that you've already developed, they're just coming in droves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there are social media groups, Facebook, Instagram, for all kinds of things. I want to be a dental assistant. Google it and you'll see, or go on Facebook and search. Like you said, there's people that are already
if they're putting that in, what are they putting into Google to look for programs?
Exactly.
Like that's important. Google Analytics is really important. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure. You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks.